Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I am your host, John Ruffman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. Fear. I want to talk about fear. And I do so because of events that are taking place in our own country that disturb me greatly. Let's begin with the fact that we are seeing a revolution in America. It is the Trump revolution. And let's point out that part of this Trump revolution includes revenge. That's right, revenge. More than 6,000 agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation are now being investigated. They are being asked to prove their loyalty to Donald Trump. As I recall, when you take an oath in the FBI or frankly anywhere else in this country, you take an oath to the Constitution, not to an individual. I am concerned because of fear. FBI agents who have done their job, done their duty, the online people who make the FBI work, are now being attacked. That's right, attacked. If in any way they participated in the investigation of Donald Trump. Do you understand the job of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, is to investigate. And when you have agents of the FBI, many of whom have spent their life in that pursuit, when they are now being questioned, they are now being asked to prove their loyalty in order to stay with the federal government, there is something terribly wrong. We'll talk more about Kash Patel, the nominee of Donald Trump for the directorship of the FBI. But let me tell you, this is a far cry from the FBI story starring Jimmy Stewart. It is a far cry from the FBI starring Efrem Zimbalist Jr. It is a far cry from the FBI that we understood to be the premier law enforcement agency in this country, and which was and is supposed to be above politics. Should we be afraid at the politicization of the FBI? The answer is you bet. The politicization of the Justice Department? You bet. One of the reasons that Donald Trump ran the way he ran was he accused the Biden administration of going after him. Let me tell you, the comparison between what is happening now and what happened then is clear. It is Trump who is weaponizing the Justice Department, Trump who is weaponizing the FBI. And can you imagine that USAID, one of the great humanitarian agencies of all time, is now being dismantled by Donald Trump and his minions? I must tell you, I've known people in AID for years who've done splendid work. It is not a political agency. And the accusation that it is wrong. And in fact, Congress created AID at the instigation of John F. Kennedy in 1961. And now we are told that it is an agency that should be disbanded. I'm telling you something. That is a reason to be afraid. And speaking of fear, what about all of the people who live in this country, some legally, some illegally, who are afraid? They are afraid because the massive roundups, the militarization of our military on the border, ICE going after individuals, whether they are guilty of something or not, it's scary. I spoke with one family who are afraid to go out of their house. Now, are they here illegally? No, they're here legally. But they are afraid that because they are Hispanic, they might be caught in a web of terror, rounded up and deported. And may I say a word about tariffs and trade wars? We have learned a lesson about the threat of tariffs. Donald Trump may get what he wants from Canada and Mexico, not because it's the right thing, but because, frankly, he's a bully. And now, will our borders be safer? I don't think so. If 10,000 Canadian military are on the northern border and 10,000 Mexican military are on the southern border, do you feel safer? Will it prevent the peddling of fentanyl? Will it do something to make you more secure in your home? I doubt it. I say this because the fear that I see and hear and feel is very disturbing. The whole point of the United States of America was that we wouldn't live in fear. Do you remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt's wise words on March 4th, 1933, as he took the oath of office? The only thing we have to fear, he said, is fear itself. There is a fear abroad in the land, and that fear is engendered by actions taken by the President of the United States, and yes, unelected individuals who serve the President of the United States. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that Elon Musk and his minions will now have access to private, confidential information, which they should not have access to? Am I afraid? It's a good question. I believe that a healthy dose of fear is a good thing. But I did not and do not and never expected that the fear that I feel would come from my own government, from my own president. There is a fear abroad in the land, and the question is, how do you combat it? And that is a serious question, which every American will have to deal with. Let me tell you something that I believe with every fiber of my being. What Donald Trump is doing to America, engendering this fear, is a danger to our democracy. Now, there are some who will say, but John, you are reacting hysterically. No, not hysterically, logically. I am a student of the American presidency. For those of you who have followed me for more than 3 decades on the radio and in my public addresses and my teaching, you know that I am the most rational of individuals. But I woke up this morning with fear. Fear that, frankly, no American, no person in our country should ever feel. And that, my friends, is the great danger of what Donald Trump is doing. We're going to talk about it. We're going to think about it. We're going to react to it. We're going to do it right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. Thanks for tuning into another episode. I am your host, and I'm happy to be here. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. This is an important message to all of you. This is something that we must talk about, and we do it right here. I want to thank Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this program. I want to remind you you can interact with me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, through emails, and I will be back tomorrow. I hope with a more optimistic message, right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman.